Today, the Community Health Foundation is shining the spotlight on kids' health. Teens live in a really different world than we did at their age, and life is fast-moving and can be frustrating and at times overwhelming. According to a study conducted by the Partnership for a Drug-Free America, teenage girls in particular are more at risk to use drug and alcohol to deal with their problems than teenage boys. Joining me right now is Jill Spinetti from the Governor's Prevention Partnership to help us understand what's going on. Jill Spinetti, how are you? Nice to see you.
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
I got to tell you, when I first went over some of the material and found out how the study has shown from 2008 to 2009 that the numbers are up with girls using drugs and alcohol more than boys.
That's right. This is the first time we've ever seen this happen, and it was always the boys we were worried about, but now the girls are reporting, two-thirds of girls are reporting that they're using drugs and alcohol, and that they are using it to relieve stress in their lives.
Now, this is kind of strange. You know, when you talk about this and you talk about the self-medicating aspect of it, when girls are self-medicating, what are some of the stresses that are specifically hitting young girls, teenage girls right now that parents might not be aware of? And when you say self-medicating, define that a little bit more.
Right. Well, they're talking about academic stress, and we know that parents are putting a lot of pressure on kids to get straight A's in schools, to excel academically, to get into the best colleges. That's putting a lot of stress on kids. There's also family stress with the economic situation, layoffs in the family, there's divorces going on, kids are moving from school to school, and just general stress in life that has been increasing now. So then the girls are saying it's a lot easier to turn to drugs and alcohol. I feel a little bit depressed. Let me relieve my stress and I'll take a drink or I'll take a pill. Okay, and that's what's happening.
And what age are we starting to see this when we say teenage girls?
Well, we're looking at high school kids in this study, but we know in Connecticut kids as young as 11 and 12 try alcohol. So young kids are doing it as well.
Now, what are some of the stronger stress factors when you say that? Is it image? Is it, peer pressure? Or what?
Yeah, it's girls and body image. It's how they look, keeping up with everybody else. And again, that academic stress is huge. So they're studying hard. They want to get into the best schools. And then at night, they're relieving their stress by drinking. And kids also face depression, and sometimes as parents, we don't want to look at that. And when kids are feeling depressed or just not right, sometimes they'll turn to drugs and alcohol to relieve that as well.
And another thing I think that we're finding out there right now, and I'd be interested to see what you say, is with all the social networking that's going on, with all the texting that's going on, with all the cyber stuff that's happening, that we might not be aware of what our children may be experiencing when they're just, texting or something.
Well, that's exactly right. There's a whole world out there that I don't think parents are aware of, and we're just finding out about that. You had mentioned that, local police departments are getting involved in that. Parents really need to get involved in their kids' lives and check out what they're being exposed to. Do you know that they can buy drugs and alcohol online?
Huh? Really?
Yeah, they can, and they find out how to make things, so they're learning from each other how to do this.
So when they're up in their room on their computer, it's not necessarily a good thing,
That's
right?
correct, yes, right.
Now, what about as far as teenagers and all the texting that's going on? Are you better off to try to have a phone that doesn't have that capability? How do you control it? Everybody wants the newest, niftiest thing.
I know. I always suggest to parents that they monitor their teens' behavior, like check the phone, see what the textings are, find out what's going on. You really have to get into your child's world and find out everything that's going on.
And I know there are some things available, and again, it's more stuff that's out online, but there's ways of checking what they've been looking at on the internet, and it's just trying to keep an eye on them, not trying to control them, but for their own safety,
to protect them.
How about some tips for parents as far as what they should be looking for right now with all the things that are happening with their kids?
Well, keeping the lines of communication open is a huge thing. And we forget about that. Yep. Everybody leads busy lives. Parents have to find a time every day to sit down and talk with their kids, whether it's over dinner, at bedtime, really get into their world, show up at school, go to their team sports and their concerts, find out what's going on, meet their friends. Really important.
Yeah, and you're finding it that parents don't necessarily, their lives are so busy, they need to, again, they got to be a parent, they've got to be a friend, but they got to communicate.
That's
and
exactly
ask
right. Yeah, so then when times are bad, the child knows that they can go to their parents, and that's huge. They really need that kind of support. I always suggest that parents really observe what's going on. So just sit on the sidelines and really start to find out why is your kid feeling stress. Are you as a parent putting more academic stress on them? Are they feeling stress from their school? What is going on? So you can really identify the stressors, especially when it comes to girls.
Now, what about as far as monitoring some of their online activity?
Well, yeah, finding out where they are at all times is important. That could be either on the side, in the cyber world or the real world. You have to know where they are. And as teens, sometimes we want to let go a little bit. They're starting to drive and move around. As parents, we have to be really critically aware at all times of what they're doing.
Now, what about when they come home? I mean, you know, without trying to, you know, be overprotective, what are some things that you might want to look for to see if maybe your daughter or your son, I mean, because actually it's happening with both of them quite frequently, what are some of the signs you should look for?
Yeah, you know, a great thing to do is to hug them when they get home. So get up, make sure you're up, and give them a big hug, and then you can smell, you know, have they been smoking marijuana? Do they have alcohol on their breath? It's being a vigilant parent. Sometimes if we can address behaviors like drinking and smoking marijuana early, we can stop it before it becomes full-blown addiction. So it's really, really important to get the help you need. So, you know, when you find out that there is a problem, if you are aware that your child is using drugs or alcohol or under severe stress or depressed, get the help that you need, because these problems can be solved.
Now, what about ecstasy? That seemed to be really popular for a while. Is that still out there?
Well, you know, girls like to use ecstasy because it makes them feel good. It helps the endorphins in the brain. It peaked a couple years ago, but it is still out there, and it's a drug that we are concerned about here in Connecticut.
Okay, tell us a little bit about how you monitor online and cell phone activity, again, without trying to take it away, grab it away from them.
Yeah, we call it a trust check. Or, you know, parents used to say, well, I can't invade their privacy. I'm not sure I want to do that. But we have to keep our kids safe. The stakes are so high with these things that are happening. And so I don't think there's anything wrong with looking in the backpack, looking online, checking the texts, going on the Facebook and finding out what they're saying. I think that really is being a vigilant parent. And again, if you have a trusting relationship with your teen, they'll understand why you're doing it.
Okay, what about finding positive ways to fit in? Tell us a little bit about that.
I think that, you know, every kid has talent, and it might not be sports and it might not be academics, but really finding a place where your kid can feel him or herself. It could be a hobby, anything, an activity, a religious activity. They have to go to a place where they feel themselves and they really can fit in with the peers around them. And I know myself, with my son, it wasn't easy at first. And then we found out that he loved the saxophone, and that's what we had to do. You have to find that one thing that they really love.
Now, what about giving them an opportunity to spread their wings a little bit and to feel like they have some power and some decision-making power? How do you get to that point?
Yeah, by trust. You build up trust over time, but you're exactly right. If they can start to make good decisions, whether it's driving, getting a job, you know, then they can start to make good decisions and refuse drugs when they're with their friends. And this is all about making good decisions. We don't want kids to pick up a prescription drug and take it, or, you know, drink and then put themselves in a risky situation.
Yeah, well, the prescription drug stuff is really bad.
Yes.
Really bad.
And may I put one more tip out there? Parents need to lock up their medicine cabinets and lock up their liquor cabinets, because kids are getting prescription drugs and alcohol right from their parents' homes.
Now, we've covered some great stuff, but what about an online guide or anything like that? Is there something available that you have?
Yes, at preventionworksct.org, we are going to, in the next couple of weeks, be putting up a new guide on alcohol. It's a very, it has a lot of instruction for parents. There's also drugfree.org. That's a great website with tips for parents.
All right, Jill Spinetti, thank you so
Thanks,
much.
Steve.
You really got to be vigilant. You got to ask a lot of questions.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot for coming by.
Thank you.
All right, and if you'd like more information, you go to WTNH.com and click on the Connecticut Style page. We'll leave all the info there for you. Coming up next, we're in the kitchen.